Welcome, everyone, to Music Junkies, a podcast about people sharing extraordinary stories about how music has impacted their lives.
Welcome, everyone, to Music Junkies. I'm your host, Annette Smith, and our guest today is Alana. Great friend of mine. We've known each other, geez, I don't even know, like
20?
Yeah, over 20.
24 years?
Yeah, which is crazy. So I know that we were scheduled to meet at 1 o'clock, but then I screwed up and now you're here and it's 2 o'clock. But you're going to doctors. Are you pregnant again? What's going on?
Oh, hell no. No, I'm not pregnant. Everything's good.
That's good. That's good. Before we get started, I always like to ask people what their experience was like putting their playlist together. And I know you were so creative putting this together. I've only had one other person do that, and that's Susan, who is like obviously loves to control every situation. And I love her for that. But yeah, you were sending me like YouTube videos and big descriptions. And you were like, Susan, you were doing my job for me. And I love that. I love that you were like, oh my God, this is taking me so long because I got to do all Annette's work.
Yeah, one thing about me is I don't really read instructions carefully enough. So probably I just misunderstood what I was supposed to do. I totally find that. I go back and go, oh, I should have read this.
No, I thought it was good. I was super creative, and it, obviously I haven't seen some of those videos forever. So it was even really cooler to go back and look at those videos. If you were to describe your playlist to somebody, how would you describe it?
I have 6 songs in my phone. That's it.
Really?
It's terrible. So whenever my kids are in the car, then I'm like, just connect your phone, because I have no music in my phone, which is so strange. But I guess what I end up listening to most of the time is like audiobooks, and I actually got like addicted to audiobooks when, back being in the business, I had a car that could only play tapes. And so with my library card, I'd go to the library and rent whatever I could find that I could play with a cassette player, because everyone else had CDs. And so I listened to the most random audiobooks about every different topic. And so I really like fiction, nonfiction. They're not all like personal development. It's just like sometimes just for entertainment, whatever. But so I really don't listen to actually a whole bunch of music.
So you're an audiobook queen. I love it.
Yeah.
Is there any, like for me, I have a hard time with audiobooks. Probably the biggest reason why is that monotone voice. I can't handle it at all. So how many monotones did you listen to with all those?
Oh, see, when you, most of the time I find I think maybe if you've listened to a lot of personal development ones, that's where you might get the monotone. But when you listen to like a fiction audiobook, the actors are really good. They're really good at reading the story for you. And one of my favorites ever, do you remember that series Roots?
Maybe.
It's a mini series, and it's about slavery.
Okay.
And I listened to the book, and it's amazing. And I would never want to read that book myself, because it had a whole bunch of words that I wouldn't have known how to pronounce and whatever. And the actor did such an amazing job. And it's a fictional story, but it's historical. Actually, it's not fictional in the end, but yeah, there's I've learned so much from listening to even historical fiction, and it's interesting to listen to, because they do the voices, and
yeah, it's awesome. I love it.
It's great.
All right, you ready to get started?
Yes, ma'am.
Your first song. So, Be Still My Soul.
Is that the first one I sent you?
That is the first one you sent me.
That's definitely a song that it was it played a big part in my life for a certain era in my life. And I haven't listened to it in quite a while because my circumstances have changed. But when I was divorced for the second time, and I have 7 kids, and I had basically baby toddler triplets. And even throughout my tumultuous second marriage, I found myself listening to that song on an almost daily basis because it was like, literally, I just needed something to like help me to like be still and be comforted. I don't know how many times I prayed for comfort and strength and hope. Just like, please God, just give me some of your strength. I don't need you to change my situation. I'm not asking for a miracle here. Just give me some of your strength and just comfort me. And that song was such a comfort to me during those times. And because life is different now, you know, you kind of turn away from those things that brought you closer to God. Like you find when you need him the most is when you get closest to him. Yeah. But that's probably why it's the first one I sent you, because it has a really special place in my heart.
Yeah. And I can tell it does.
Yeah.
So since you brought it up, let's go there. Right. So got married. How old were you when you first got married?
I was 21.
21. Did you have any babies with that guy?
4 of them.
Four
so
babies.
We were married for 14 years.
14 years. So what do you think happened in that marriage that made it dissolve?
A few things. So I married him knowing right off the bat that I wasn't really into him. And he kind of checked off some boxes that I thought were important. And I knew that I wasn't really into him. And I thought, you know, I had a boyfriend in high school that was just a douchebag, and we broke up 6 times. And I was like in love with him. You know, we started dating when I was 17. And I thought he'd be a horrible husband. So maybe it's not that important to have these feelings for someone. Maybe they don't matter that much. But you know, it turns out that they do. But then one of the things that I always wanted was, I always wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And I thought that, you know, that's the best thing ever. You know, when women say, oh, I'm just a mom, I think, oh, like I hate hearing that, because that was always what my dream. And, but that husband just never, was never really into like working, you know, or like actually, you know, so I found myself being the breadwinner, which was a huge disappointment for me. And he was a stay-at-home dad. It was really hard for me to respect him. And I already wasn't attracted to him. And like, to be quite honest, like I found myself constantly flirting with other guys.
Yeah.
I just had this like desperate need that needed to be filled, that I was like, oh, I want this feeling so badly. And so it was really my fault that marriage failed, because he loved me. In the end, you know, it was his decision. But if I knew that somebody didn't love me, then I wouldn't want to be with them either.
Yeah, for sure. And then how quickly did you fall into the next relationship?
So we had filed for divorce, but we hadn't received our papers yet that said that it was final. And so I met my second husband 3 weeks before I got my divorce paperwork. And what's funny about that is that, like, you know, back when we met, I wasn't so much this way, but I'm a pretty religious girl, you know, these days. And so, Annette laughs. Yes, we had some good times, didn't we, Annette?
That's right.
But so when I met my second husband, I wouldn't even kiss him because I was still married. You know, I wasn't officially divorced yet. So we met and got married super, super quickly. It was a really crazy sort of situation, because when he came to Canada on a visitor's visa and it had expired. And so at that point he was like illegal being here. And so there was a real kind of urgency. It was either like, we're going to get married or he's just going to leave. There was no like, well, let's date and let's just have some fun and see where this goes. It's either like we're getting married or he's leaving. And so we actually got married really quickly. And I think this is a lot like the way that you are. I'm very much like, what you see is what you get. I don't have a second personality that I put on for, you know, and I just could never imagine being insincere. And so when he acted a certain way, was basically like everything I was looking for. I was like, oh, that's awesome. and never, I was a grown woman, but it didn't occur to me that like, hey, maybe that this is not real. Maybe he's just putting this on for you.
Yeah.
But it turns out that that was exactly the case. Like he just thought, he loved me, but he completely misrepresented himself. Completely. And it was like, what did I do? Like, but being a religious girl, and even not just religious, but just having like this guilt over being divorced already. And
how quickly was it?
How quickly was what?
The second divorce.
Oh, we were married for 4 years.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah. I gave it the college try. I wasn't just going to give up on this one so easily. Because I said to myself, I will do whatever it takes to keep my commitment. And so it really was about just trying to keep the promise that I made and just not fail.
Yeah.
And so I just stayed a lot longer than I should have. And because of feeling like I let my family fall apart and I caused my first divorce, I felt like I deserved to be punished. And so he did punish me. Like I'm a happy girl. Happy's my baseline, but I was probably crying my guts out every second day. And, and in the business that we're in, it would be like, cry your guts out and then fix your makeup and then go do an appointment or go do a business presentation, go to the office and just be like, boom, you're on. It was devastating. But I'm so grateful for that experience because there was a lot of things about me that needed to change. And, being with somebody that was extremely selfish was so good for me because you learn to adapt, with the people that you're with. So it just, if there was 6 chairs at the table, but 7 people, I'd sit on the stairs. I just would do anything I could to try and make him happy. Just please, whatever you want to do, just as long as you're happy, we'll do it. And so putting someone else's needs first, you do that as a mother, but as a partner, putting him first. And I constantly thought about what I could do to help him or what I could do to make him happy. And I always say the key to happiness in life is the management of your expectations. And so he managed to lower my expectations really significantly. And so I thought like, man, he just made me the perfect wife for the next person that I marry.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing. I know that obviously it's hard to share and being vulnerable. And I love that you did that. I really appreciate it. So I know we're going to go down that rabbit hole a couple times throughout this playlist, but I'm going to start the next song. Are you ready? I feel like it's going to be, I think I remember what you sent me with this song. 1,000 Years.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful song.
That was I think I told you, it was a song that I went and recorded it down at my cousin's recording studio. Like my family, we actually grew up very musical. And so my dad taught us as siblings, we used to sing 4-part harmony together since I was like 5 years old. And so I went and I have some really musical cousins as well. So I went and recorded this for my husband and it was his Christmas present. But this song, and it was what we danced to our first dance at our wedding, was so amazing that you fast forward your life of what you think everything's going to look like, right? I'm 40 years old with 7 kids.
I'm not quite sure if you guys heard that. 7?
Yeah, 7 kids, including triplets, right? So I'm a catch. The online profile, it writes itself, right? It's like, who isn't looking for that?
Yeah.
But you know what? I never let that be a thing in my head. I always knew that I would get remarried and I'd find somebody awesome. And so I think, you make things what they are. And so if you think something is a really big deal and it's a problem, it probably will be to other people. But, the interesting thing about when I met my husband is that I had been doing some online dating, which I think is great. He always felt he was too cool for that. But as a business person, I think it makes a lot of sense, right? And it's like, oh, you have 3 dogs, swipe left. 3 big dogs. I have no problem with dogs. It's just that, things like that. But I found like, it was kind of a lot of work. You to go on a date, you're always going to wash your hair that day and put a little extra effort in and find childcare and then go. I'd always meet somebody for coffee, right? First, just to like see if it was worth it to go on an actual date. And people were just never as good looking in person. Kidding. But so I'd been doing a little bit of online dating, had been divorced for about a year, separated for a year and then divorced for about a year. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to take a little break because I'm doing good. Like I was doing good with work and with feeling great about my family and my kids and my friends. And I'm just going to take a little bit of time off. And so my husband we actually knew each other from church from years ago. But I had never spoken to him. Like we were in the same congregation for probably years and had never had a conversation. So I didn't know how awesome he was. And so I had let go of my subscription. I was on Match. I let go of my subscription. And then one day it was 50% off. So I was like, I'll go see if maybe there'll be something interesting in my inbox. And there was a message from him that was like 2 months old. That was like, hey, Alana, do you remember me from church? And I was like, oh my gosh, that guy's single. I didn't know what had become of, they moved out of our town and I hadn't heard anything. And I thought he was a good looking guy and he was successful. And so I messaged him back and I didn't hear anything. And I was like, you know what? I bet you he let go of his subscription too. But because I knew his last name, I creeped him on Facebook. And then we ended up, what I would normally do, because this is how you got to play it when you have 7 kids, okay? Because like, again, I would never put that in my profile, right? But if you start messaging with someone and people go, well, in text, tell me a little bit about yourself. If you lead with that, you're not going on a date. Okay. So, and I don't hold that against anybody because it's at that point, you're a balance sheet and that's fine. That's totally okay. So it's like, oh, lady with 7 kids, no thanks. Right. So what I would do is I'd be like, hey, why don't we get to know each other? Why don't we chat over coffee and have as little chit chat as possible before we would meet for coffee? Because what I found is that when you get together with someone in person, then you have chemistry. You have a vibration about you and you can, make a good impression. And generally people would want to see me again after we went for coffee, even though I had 7 kids. But my husband, Grant, he was working up in Grand Prairie. And so we're messaging and he's like, so tell me about your family. And I'm like, dang it. So I was like, well, the 4 kids about, and then I had 3 more. And so we had already chatted quite a bit up until this point. And then I said I had 7 kids and then I didn't hear from him for like 4 days. It's like, oh crap. So I, played it cool, just let it go. And then I thought, no, you know what, I'll message him. And so I messaged him on Monday and reeled him back in. And then we ended up probably talking for like 10 hours before we had our first date. So when he came back into town, we had our first date. And so the 1,000 years, the song says, I've loved you for 1,000 years and I'll love you for 1,000 more. When we went on our first date, it was like, I always tell people, it was the most epic first date. Like, it was like 2 puzzle pieces just went click, like we were just waiting for each other. I've never met somebody that I was more aligned with, where we just think alike all the time. We don't have similar personalities, but we think alike about everything. So we never have had a conflict about anything. And so we've been together for 2 years now. And he came into, me parenting 7 kids. He has 6 kids of his own. And we'd never had any conflict. And he said to me after our first date, it feels like we've been friends for so long. Like it was like getting back together with an old friend. And so just like from both of us knew on our first date that like he was the one and he thought I was the one. Like that was it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like, after our first date, it was like, okay, well, we're going to get married.
I love it.
So yeah, that song is just like that. Just like, it feels like we go back 1,000 years.
Do you have all the kids at your house at one time?
Well, he's a little bit older than I am. So that works out really nicely because his youngest is about 6 months older than my oldest.
And how old's your oldest?
17.
Okay, so perfect. So now you got 2 babysitters. So like you married a guy and you got a babysitter.
No, so my kids are the best in-house babysitters you've ever seen. I have a picture of the first time we went to church together, and my kids, they were little at the time, like that was 5 years ago. So they were 12, 10, 8, and 6. And I have a picture of them like holding, you know, I had farmed out the 3 babies to the 3 biggest kids. And these were tiny little, just out of the NICU babies, you know, 3.5 pounds. And they were looking after them at church for me. And they used to, you know, babysit, like my 10-year-old girl could babysit triplets, baby triplets.
Wow.
And like, she rocked it. Yeah. So his kids, they're older. And so they don't live with us, and they're kind of like married and grown up. But my kids are the babysitters, and they're amazing.
That's good. Get some free time. You need it, right? You need it.
Yeah, they seriously saved my life. I don't know what I would do without them.
This next song, God, We Need You Now. So again, another really pretty song.
You got to play the chorus. That's my favorite part.
Like all aggressive.
What's that?
It's all aggressive chorus line there. I know that song is actually all over TikTok. Hey,
yeah,
that chorus part.
Yeah,
all the craziness that's going on in our world right now. Why do you love that song so much?
Well, so being a Christian, it used to be like, in the past, we've said and thought like, oh, I hope we have some time. You know, we believe that like these are kind of like the last days before the second coming. And we always thought, oh, we hope we have some time so we can do this and we can do that and we can do this. And I don't find myself wishing for a lot of time anymore. I find myself saying, just come, Lord, because of how crazy things are. And not that we're suffering in any way, but so many other people are. And it's really heartbreaking, you know, when you start to look into like what's happening with child trafficking, which is just didn't seem like was a thing when we were growing up, but has exploded, I think, because of pornography. It's another topic, but child trafficking is such an issue, and there's so many things that are culminating to create this sort of perfect storm that I think is coming. And so I find myself saying like, oh Lord, just come, you know, with all the things that are happening. And this is a very hot and divisive topic, but yeah. But watching, you know, vaccine passports and things like that, you know, where no matter how you feel about a vaccine, whether you got it on the first day that it came out or you never want to get it, everybody should be against vaccine passports and handing their freedom and control over their health over to the government. And that people don't see that we're headed towards a completely totalitarian society. That, you know, when we were young, we read 1984, well, not that young, 1984, we read it in school. And if you go back and read it today, it's like prophecy. And that book, they live under this tyrannical government and there's no escape from it because they're always being watched.
Yeah.
And so I think we live in this day and age. And I think that people, for some reason, we have this complacency in North America that the atrocities that have happened at the hands of governments in other countries couldn't happen here. For some reason, people think that. I'm not sure why. It's happened in Western Christian nations, right? And not that long ago. And people are so asleep at the wheel and not realizing what's happening that they've completely handed over their freedom. And now the government knows, oh, we can completely suspend freedoms in an emergency. So all we need to do is create an emergency. And so now, honestly, I'll tell you, if it wasn't for my faith and believing that, hey, these are the last days, and I believe I signed up for this. I believe I signed up to come at this time. If it wasn't for that, I don't know what I would do. I would be at this point like paralyzed with fear, but I'm not, because I just think, well, hey, there's a plan here. And so we can find happiness every single day. Yeah. No matter what's going on around us, we can find happiness, but we're praying like, hey, God, we need you now. Come back home.
I love it. That's a great way to kind of look at what's going on in the world. And I am 95% agree with you, right? There's lots of things that it's crazy. It's crazy. And obviously both of us are very outspoken. It's really hard for me to bite my tongue with anything. Right.
Yeah.
I had a meeting today that I was just like, are you like fucking retarded? Like, are we even like, I can't have you on my team. I don't even know what to do with you. Cause it's just like right over your head. Like, how are we ever going to connect? We're never going to connect. Like you just are totally the opposite way.
Yeah.
Again, that's okay. But if we can't even find a middle ground and you're just really, really stubborn on one way, then I don't really know what to do. So obviously we grew up in the 80s, right? Love the 80s. You don't have any 80s on here, but that's okay. I know that you love the 80s though, or had loved the 80s. So I want you to think back to all those 80s rock bands. And I want you to tell me your favorite, either lead singer or a guitar player. Maybe a drummer. Not a lot of drummers really stood out for me in the 80s.
Let me tell you what the 80s was for me. Was this the 80s or early 90s?
Probably
Tiffany.
Okay,
and New Kids on the Block. I don't have any cool bands for you, okay?
No cool bands for me.
No. So like, I would watch music videos of girls at concerts crying and I'd be like, oh my gosh, that is so lame. So New Kids was my first concert and I was 12 years old. So I guess that would have been early 90s. As soon as they came on stage, I burst into tears. I'm that girl.
So what New Kids on the Block guy did you love the most?
Joey McIntyre.
Oh my goodness. I love it. Okay, great song, Titanium, David Guetta. Right, such a great song. So what is your memory thought on this song? Why do you love this song?
I just love this song because all of the things that you have to do to psych yourself up, right? And when you have painful disappointments in your life, in your business, especially, in our business, it can be such a roller coaster if you don't maintain a good mental and emotional state. And so that, the idea of like, I'm titanium, and like, you can't take me down, that after a while, these things that seemed like such a big deal in the past, they become just little blips on your radar. And I always say like, I never have a bad day. I only have bad moments.
Yeah.
Right. But even during the worst times of my life, I was still happy, generally happy. Right. And you just have shitty moments. Right. But it's just learning how to, strengthen yourself and not let things pierce through the armor. Right.
Yeah. It's crazy when you watch how much growth, like I look at all the growth that I've did over the years. I used to have like bad years and then bad months and then bad weeks and then bad days. And then you're right. Now it's just a bad moment. It's like, oh, fuck, I hate that. That pisses me off. All right. I got to go do something, change my state. And usually that's why I love music so much. Usually I can just go put on a song or just totally remove myself for something or go read something or whatever it is, just get me out of a totally different state. And it's helped immensely with anything that I've ever really wanted to achieve. So I love that you said that.
Doesn't it? You can look at things with new eyes.
Yeah, that's right. So Lana, all this experience you have on having babies and all this stuff, do you like to be spanked?
100%. Here's a funny thing. So my second husband was South American. And so I got spanked a lot, like just anytime throughout the day. And my son, Cristiano, so my triplets, I have two girls, Ivy, Livia, and then Cristiano is my boy. And what's funny is the girls have white girl names and they came out white. Like you wouldn't know that they were half South American. And then Cristiano came out like this little South American boy. He has this beautiful toffee skin and these dark eyes. And boy, does he like to smack butts. So most of the time, most of the spanking that happens these days happens because my son probably spanks me 10 times a day. He'll just come by and whack me on the butt. Probably not what you were thinking, but
no, I know you like to be spanked. What's the worst you've ever had physical pain? What's the most pain you've ever had?
When I was 5, my shirt caught on fire.
Oh, wow.
And I'm not sure how this ended up happening, but I got a 3rd-degree burn on my hand. And so lucky for me, like I didn't get any burns on my chest or my face or anything. I just got this gnarly burn on my hand. And I don't remember now the pain from it, but I remember it happening so clearly. And I can't tell you what happened last week, right? But I can tell you how that day went because it was so painful and so traumatic. You could see the bones in my hand. And so that was probably the most painful thing.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
This next song, you ready? I love it. It's awesome. I'd like to play guitar like that. That'd be amazing.
Despacito. So being single wasn't all bad.
So there's some Spanish guys in there then.
Yeah, I shouldn't say this now because my husband is like the whitest guy you've ever met, like Alberta farm boy, super white. But I always I was a sucker for like, Latin men and their moves. And I love Latin music. And so for the 2 years of being like separated and divorced, a girlfriend of mine, we were friends. We've been friends since junior high, and she's such a good lady. And we ended up being single at the same time. And what a blessing that was, because when you're single, you need a single girlfriend. Yeah. You need a wing girl, right? And she needs a wing girl. So we went out, like with all the pressures that you have as a single mom and running a business and all the stuff you have to do. It was like, we went out Latin dancing like every Saturday. And it was like salvation. It was just a chance to just go and like blow off steam and dance for like 4 hours straight. And we had such a good time and like such fond memories. Cause now, I'm remarried and so I wouldn't dream of going out without my husband. And, but he dances like an Alberta farm boy. So, so my Latin dancing days are over. But man, I hear that song and it's just like all the memories flooding back of just the good times that we had.
Sweating on the dance floor and grinding.
Oh yeah. I would never work as hard in a workout as I would work on the dance floor.
Yeah. Do you have any pet peeves, Lana?
Pet peeves.
Things that drive you crazy.
Angry drivers.
Okay. Are you the slow driver? Is that why you don't like angry drivers?
No, I'm not a slow driver at all. And I'm an assertive driver, but I'll tell you, I'm the type that will, if there's 3 lanes open and one is closing and you need to get in, you need to move right. I'm the one that will stay in the 3rd lane until the last minute and then move over. I actually watched a video about how that increases the flow of traffic. It's actually better because you're utilizing more lanes. But people get so angry, and there are people that where you're like, you're just trying to get in, right? And there are people that are like, no matter what, I'm just not letting you in because they're angry. I don't know what they're so mad about, right? Because I let people in all the time. I think like I'm that guy that gets in at the last minute, but I'm also that girl that will like, I'll let you in, right? I'll always let you in. And so yeah, I just think like angry drivers that I think, man, for the amount of time we have to spend on the road, why are you going to spend it being angry?
Okay, angry drivers. Anything else?
This is more of a like, not so much a pet peeve as like, I'm going to kill you, but like mess. I grew up in like a social services is going to take you away dirty home. And it's like, so for me, mess is like, I can't stand it. I'm not OCD or anything, but I like my house to be clean. And so, finding things like left on the floor or mess left in the kitchen, things like that, like it makes me crazy, which is tricky because I have triplets that are like a tornado, but yeah, mess. Like I couldn't take a messy spouse. It would make me crazy. It would probably be grounds for divorce. And I'd be on number 4.
So having all these babies, how long have you went without a shower before?
The longest I've gone without a shower is probably from camping, like 4 days.
Yeah, camping makes sense.
Yeah. I've always made time for myself to like, even even when the triplets were babies, like I don't think that a day would pass that I didn't like do my makeup. And so I think like when you feel better, then when you look better, you feel better.
Yeah,
right.
I agree.
And so it just puts you in a better state for the day.
I agree.
And so taking care of yourself, I think, is really important. That's why, like in an airplane, they say when the masks fall down, you're supposed to put your own on first. You know, and I think that it's easy with being a mom, you know, you put your kids first, and sometimes it's at your expense. And I think that it's important to make sure that you're doing like self-care and taking care of yourself, because if you need to have something to give.
Yeah.
Right. So
I love that you said that, because a lot of people use that as an excuse.
Yeah.
Right. And you very well could have.
Yeah.
Right. Like if anybody said, oh my God, why don't you have your makeup on that night? You could say, are you fucking kidding? I have 7 kids. When am I trying to put makeup on?
Yeah.
Well, 4 o'clock, I guess, if that's what time you want me to put my makeup on, that's what time I put my makeup on.
You know, you mentioned TikTok, and there's this TikTok video. I've seen a couple different girls doing it. It's like, my husband asked me why I don't dress better around the house. So they put on like a ball gown and then they start vacuuming and stuff. And I know everybody laughs about that, but I think,
well, why not?
I think that like every single day, and I would be the girl that would do her makeup every day anyways, but every day I put on nice clothes and I wear jewelry and stuff, and I'm not going anywhere, but I know my husband's coming home. And so I just think like we do ourselves up for other people, but he's like the most important person to me. He's my person, and he's who I want to look good for. And so I don't need to wear a ball, and I can clean in what I'm wearing. You can clean with earrings in and makeup on. You can, right? And so I think like, if you put in that effort, then maybe their husbands would step up their game. Right? Like
good marriage advice. I love it.
Well, it's like who do you value the most, right? And it's the same thing with like how you'll treat strangers often better than the people you live with, right? You give common courtesy to strangers, but then often we don't have that for the people that live in our home. But it's like, who do you really value? They deserve your best.
Yeah, I agree. 1,000%. I love this song Lighters that you have on here. It would be really, really cool to go and see them and then play this song and then watch all the lighters, come up. Yeah, it'd be awesome. It'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Why do you love that song so much?
This song is about, you have to use whatever motivates you and whatever moves you. And so, in our business, it's important to understand why you're doing what you're doing, because there's a lot, you have to move yourself, right? If you don't do anything, nothing will happen. And so you have to have a really firm understanding of why you want this and why you're doing it. And a lot of people come into our businesses, they say, well, I want to help people and whatever. But I think, once people start pissing you off, that goes out the window, right? Where it's like, I want to help people, but if you don't seem to want to be helped, like, why am I going to chase you down? Right?
Very true.
And so I did want to do something that mattered and would make a difference and would help people. But I'll tell you what got me to the position of senior marketing director, it was really this like insane desire to prove myself and to be somebody. And I wanted to be a big deal. And so this song of like Lighters, I thought of myself, right? Like being up there and like winning, right? And speaking in front of large crowds. And now I look back on that because my motivation has totally changed, and I don't feel the need for that so much anymore. Like I feel like who I want to prove things to are my family, my kids and my husband. And it doesn't really matter to me so much what kind of other people think. I feel like going through what I went through and in our company, I've never crossed over 100K. When I was on my own in 2019, my income went up to 97 grand. And that's kind of like the peak of where it's been. And in World Financial Group, you're kind of a loser if that's the case, right? That you haven't even crossed over 100K, so if you compare yourself to what other people are doing or what in different circumstances, then you feel like, oh, I'm a loser. I'm a WFG loser. But I'm like, you know what? Out of all those people that make 250 or more or whatever, how many of them are single mothers of 7 kids and triplets? Exactly 0. Right. And so I don't know a lot of like single moms that made that kind of money. Then it's really a testament to how good our company is. And it's just, it just pays well, you know, to do what we do, and that we're able to make great money, even while we juggle and balance a bunch of other things. But I think, you know, to me, that was a win. Being able to support my family, and a lot of time, I've never ever been able to rely on child support.
Yeah.
And so it was really just up to me to look after my family, and I never went looking for handouts, and I was always okay. You know, I did good. And so now, you know, I feel like I don't have anything to prove to anybody. I'm a winner. And so that, you know, that song, it just makes me laugh at who I used to be, and what really used to motivate me and move me, because like I said, I just wanted to be someone so bad. I just wanted to win and compete. But your motivations change as you do, and as you grow, right? And so you just evolve with that, and move on to the things that do continue to move you. But I think of those times of really fond memories listening to that song, because I listened to it a lot and just imagined myself, you know, speaking on stage to a bunch of people. And it's what got me through, you know, hard times.
Yeah. No, that's great. I love the analogies that you're using, because it's so important. And I love how you are, you know, certain songs resonated to you in a certain time of your life.
Yeah.
And then you can go back and look at that song or listen to that song, and it's now like comical, because you're like, oh, I'm not that person anymore.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that. So we're going to do some Beyonce. Right. Fast forward it a little bit.
It's something to remember, so they won't forget.
You love Beyonce or like Beyonce?
I like Beyonce, but I love that song. And just like I was here, right? Wanting to make your mark and make a difference.
Yeah.
And you know, these days I really feel like for me, so much of my significance and the mark that I'm leaving is in the children that I'm raising, you know, because they're the children. I'm so proud of them. My big kids have been through so much. And that's not even a thing that we covered. Like, I ended up taking full custody of my big kids because I found out that they were being abused at their dad's house very, very badly by their stepmother. But then of course my ex-husband knew about it as well. They've been through so much and had so much trauma, and they're just these like solid, strong, resilient, beautiful human beings. And just my pride and joy. And that's really, I think, you know, raising those human beings has been the greatest mark that I could leave on the world.
Yeah, I love that. And I can see the emotion that you feel with them, and how happy your kids make you. And I think that's awesome. So I want to go back to like some old school Alana stuff, obviously before kids. Right? You might throw in some pass cards here. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But she's like, where are we going with this?
Yeah.
So let's think. 20, 21, maybe 22. What were you doing during those ages? How did we meet? First of all, how did we meet?
We met working at the Palace, which was like the newest, hottest nightclub in Calgary.
I remember that.
And I remember that we used to call you the hustler, and we didn't know how you did it, but this girl, she outsold everybody. And you would sell like $400 bottles of champagne, and it was like, and nobody knew what your secret was.
I was aggressive. I never ever said you want a bottle. Like, I'd be like, you want a bottle of beer? You need to get a flat of beer. Like, I don't understand what you're doing. You're going to make me walk all this way back. You're going to drink a case. So let's just get a case and move on. And people would just do it. They were like, okay, makes sense to me. Let's totally do it.
Wow.
I do that all the time. So have you ever been attracted to a woman before?
Attracted to, like I wanted to date? No. Like I wanted to make out with? Yes.
Yeah. Have you always had an attraction like that? Or was it just something you kind of went through? Yeah, I know when we're all young, we're like, oh, hey, I'll make out with some chicks here. I was probably the worst, right? I didn't really care, right? We made out, right? You were my first, Lana.
All right, so my husband's not listening to this podcast.
You're my first girl I made out with, which was so crazy when I think back to this story.
I took
right?
your virginity, your girl virginity.
My girl virginity. I don't even really, I remember working, then I remember going back to your place. I remember us making out. And then I remember not seeing you again. And then I remember, I don't know, 15 years later, you were in the business. I was in the business. I didn't even know who you were. I don't think I ever.
And we were in
you.
San Francisco, right?
No, we were at Thawley's house.
Thawley's, yeah.
And you mentioned this, like, I don't know how you triggered this memory, but I was like, oh my God, I haven't seen this girl in, had to have been like 16, probably longer, 17 years.
Yeah.
I said to this girl, Lisa, that was there, like, I slept with that girl. Oh my God. That girl took my virginity. And she's like, what? I'm like, I'm pretty sure. And I remember keep looking at you and just being like, oh my God, I can't believe she's in the business and we're here right now. So it's so crazy to think how things kind of revolve and come back around. And like, what did you think when you obviously see, like, it was like use me. It was like a one night stand you did on it. Brutal.
What did I think when I saw you?
Yeah.
But I was like, oh my gosh, what a crazy blast from the past. I thought it was hilarious.
Oh, that was so funny. So funny. So you knew you were coming on the show today. What kind of panties did you wear today for me?
What kind of panties?
Yeah.
I'll pass.
Because you didn't wear any.
No, I'll tell you why later.
Okay, you tell me why later. It's okay if you didn't, because then that would make more sense. Right? All right, I think this is a country song, maybe. No, it's not. Oh yeah, it is. It didn't have to be. I don't know a lot of country. I always say that. And
I'm not actually a country fan.
Yeah, and I find that I am obviously interviewing a lot of people that do have some country, so I'm kind of getting into this flow, and I think I'm getting all the best country.
Yeah,
I didn't have to go and find it all myself. I feel like I'm getting the best country, and I do really like that song.
You know, I find that country lyrics are a lot more wholesome than like pop. Well, because pop lyrics are generally not wholesome at all, but but I love that song. So it's the man or the dad he didn't have to be. And this song's really just about my husband because, you know, after, of course, we had this like epic first date. A few days later, he had to go back up to Grand Prairie, and we were just talking on the phone, and he said, you know, I've really been thinking about this and really thinking about what a blessing it would be to be a dad to your kids. And so I just love so much that it's not like he loves me and so he just accepts that I have kids. It's not even like that. It's like we truly believe that like we knew each other before we were born on earth, that we were like, okay, I'll see you down there, basically. Yeah. And that we were meant to be together, because it's like, it's just uncanny, like how well suited we are for each other, and just all the things that had to happen for us to both be ready to be together at this time. And that right when he and I got together was when I found out about all this abuse and I had to take my kids away. And I would have been so devastated about that, because I'm not a dad. Like you can be the greatest mom in the world. Not that I am the greatest mom in the world, but you can be, and you can't take the place of a dad. And I would never wanted to have to take my kids away and take full custody of them. And so if I hadn't had Grant in my life at that time, I just don't know, like it would have been so devastating. And what's so funny is that when we went on our date on a Thursday and I was going camping the next day, And he said, are you sure you want to go camping? And I said, are you sure you don't? And so I was going with all my brothers and sisters, nieces, nephews, kids, everything. And he came out on Saturday morning at 7:30 in the morning and met my whole family. And
Wow.
like just one, like on our second date. So he came into my trailer. And yes, I used to take 7 kids camping by myself. With toddler triplets, because he's like, whatever, you just have to suck it up and do it. But so we spent a few minutes getting the triplets dressed and ready, and then we sent them out. And then about half an hour later, we came out of the trailer, and my daughter Ivy, who was 3 at the time, said, Daddy, look at this. And I was like, ooh, thinking like, oh, that's gonna scare him away, right? And they didn't even call they called their dad Papa. So I was like, I don't even know where, and my big kids call their dad Papa. So I didn't even know where she got Daddy from. And then all the triplets were saying, Daddy, Daddy, Daddy. And my big kids call him Dad. And they all just like, they're like, yeah, he's my dad. Like, it was just like a seamless transition. And so it's, again, so much like it was just meant to be. But I just love that he's like they're our kids. It's not like, oh, your kids and I'm with them because I want to be with you, but that he's like, they're a blessing to me. And they adore him. And he's one of those people that likes to contribute, and he would never be like, wow, your life is really hard. Good luck with that. You know,
I want to find those kind of guys.
Yeah. Like, this is too much for me. He would never leave me because it was too hard, you know?
Yeah. I love that. He sounds like a great guy. Next song, Amazing Grace. I didn't find the one that you wanted.
Oh, okay.
Just because I couldn't find it on Spotify. I'm sorry.
Oh.
But it is a beautiful song, Amazing Grace. I'm assuming you probably sang this when you were growing up.
Yes. And, you know, I've sung it at a couple of funerals and things like that. But, you know, it's just, I just know that we all are so much in need of grace, and to have grace for each other, you know, not just grace from God, like we all need for forgiveness all throughout our lives. But I think that we all need to have grace for each other. And these days there's less and less of it. There's so much division and so much hatred and contempt, I think, for one another. And I think that it's just like, just remember, you know, like we all have good things about us. There is always a common ground, even if we disagree about other things. There's always a common ground, and we can always just recognize that, hey, we're children of God, and we all need grace, we all need forgiveness, and we all need kindness.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. And I absolutely 1000% agree. We're on your last song. Can you imagine? Can you believe that? How fast it goes? You're like, oh my God, thank God. I'm going to need you to edit this. A Million Dreams. I don't think I've ever heard this song, but it's very pretty. It sounds like it is from like a
musical.
Yes, a musical or a kids movie, which I have not been exposed to in, 20 years, which is nice.
So my kids, so I told you I grew up singing with my family, and that was like, when we get together and we all sing together, it's just like, it just brings such good memories and such good vibes. Some of my greatest memories of childhood are of us singing together. And so I, taught my children how to sing, and they're, I think, really naturally gifted. Like they know how to like pick out harmonies of songs and so my house is like always full of singing. The kids will be cleaning in the kitchen and one of them will start singing, and then the rest will like chime in and they'll start singing in harmony. And it's like some of the greatest joy in my life comes from listening to my kids singing together, because that's such a like harmonious thing, right? Literally and metaphorically, them singing together. So this is a song that they all sing together. And it's just the most beautiful thing to like hear your kids singing in harmony together, and just like, loving each other, and knowing that that's a legacy that you passed on to them.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I have one last question for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to give some words of wisdom, right? With all the adversity that you have went through growing up, and then obviously everything that you've went through, is there some words of wisdom that you would like to leave to maybe somebody that's listening today?
That embrace your challenges, because you don't grow without them. when you look back on your life, the periods of growth will always be during your greatest trials. And so these aren't things, you know, in every trial, while you're in it, you need to be able to recognize the blessings of it and always be grateful through them. That, you know, you can always be grateful that, you know, it could be worse, but there's always something to be grateful for. And again, like my second marriage, which was so difficult, I couldn't be more grateful for it. I would do it again because it just changed me so much and was such a blessing to me, those times. And, you know, the times when you think, I can't do this. Like I've literally thought, like, I can't do this. I'm not strong enough for this. I want to quit. But then it's like, well, what does quitting mean? What does that even look like? Right? How do you quit being, you know, a mom of 7 kids? Like, how do you quit that? You can't, right? And those moments were when I would pray for here's a few of the little words of wisdom. You know, if you pray, please God, change my situation, you may be very disappointed because that might not be his will. But if you pray for strength and comfort and hope, he's always willing to give those things. And so that's, you know, I never did pray, change my situation. I always prayed for those things and I was always blessed with those things. So after I would cry and feel sorry for myself and, oh my gosh, then I would pray and then I would have these feelings of comfort. And then once you do make it through that moment, now you're just a little bit stronger. And so, you know, you may hear people that are going through something that's not even half of what you dealt with. And they're like, oh my gosh, and they're totally overwhelmed by it. But it's like their plate is full because they have a smaller plate than you, right? Yeah. Your plate grows through adversity. And so those are like, those times of adversity are the greatest blessings in your life if you let them be, because those times can also break you. Right? You know, when people say God never gives you more than what you can handle, I'm like, hello, what's suicide? That's someone having more than they could handle, right?
Absolutely.
And so I think that's not true. But what I do believe is that if you will like put your trust in God and you'll ask for that comfort and that strength and that hope, that you'll always receive it. And that these times are such blessings.
Yeah.
But don't try to do it alone.
That's right. Thank you so much, Lana. Great words of wisdom. I appreciated you being on the show today, right? Only one pass card and I get to find out why, but that's awesome. But I appreciate you, right? Being vulnerable, being open, sharing stories, reminiscing, going back in time, being honest. Thank you so much for being on the show. It was so fun. I knew that it was going to be such a good connection kind of doing this because probably just a good flow, right? And I knew you love music. So thanks so much.
Thank you so much. It was so fun.
Please like, subscribe, follow, right? I'll let you know all Lana's information. Maybe you can donate. I'm just kidding. Donate. She doesn't need any donations. I'm just kidding.